Winning Blueprint presents.
In the lab room, Baltimore Ravens.
So you are the Super Bowl champions. You achieved your goal that you set out at the beginning of the season. Only one team is truly, genuinely happy at the end of every NFL season, and you're that team. One of your best players in franchise history, if not the best player in franchise history, goes out on top. Life is great if you're a Baltimore Ravens fan. If you're the Baltimore Ravens staff. This franchise is on the top right now. And I say that because you may have sold your soul to the devil to win that Super Bowl championship. And on that note, hi, I'm Lou. Thank you for joining me here on the lab follow-up for the Baltimore Ravens, the Super Bowl winning Baltimore Ravens. Now, I just dropped a little nugget on you. I just dropped a little gem on your melon. I said that they may have sold their souls to the devil to win the Super Bowl. Now, look, I don't know how accurate that is. But I tell you what, looking at what I'm about to tell you, you'd be hard-pressed to not see how this Ravens team could fall apart at the seams after winning this Super Bowl championship. Now, we know the struggles of many teams after winning the Super Bowl. We just saw it a season ago, the Giants winning the Super Bowl, not making the playoffs the next season. And so it's not easy to repeat. And when you have the circumstances that are looming around this Baltimore Ravens team, it's going to be pretty hard for them to repeat as well. But let's not talk about what is to come for the Ravens. Let's talk about first how they got to this point, how they became Super Bowl champions, how the name Super Bowl champion Baltimore Ravens came to be. And they had a great 2012 season. It was full of ups and downs, and you never really saw the full potential of this team. You never really thought that this team would be the last team standing. But as often in the National Football League, appearances aren't what they seem. And so let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens and what they were able to accomplish in the 2012 season and into the postseason and into becoming Super Bowl champions. Now, this 2012 season for the Ravens started with a bang. Monday Night Football appearance against the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals were a surprise team a season ago, and so many had very high aspirations for this team. Ravens did not care anything about that. They practically own, along with the Pittsburgh Steelers, these Cincinnati Bengals, and so they exerted their dominance in this first game of the season, beating them 44-13. It really wasn't close. And that's the way you want to start your season if you're a good football team like the Baltimore Ravens. They proceed to lose the next week, but it doesn't matter. It was a close affair against the Eagles. They won their first 5 out of 6 games, started the season 5-1, and they looked like a team that, as we've come to know over the years, that's a dominant football team in the AFC, a contender for the championship in the AFC North, and a team that you've come to expect to be in the discussion at the end of the season come postseason and Super Bowl time. So they start 5-1. And right before their bye, they play the Houston Texans, the team that they knocked out of the postseason a year ago. But this time, the Texans were equipped with Matt Schaub at home, different ball game, different circumstances. The Ravens were trounced. They lost by 30 in this game, 43-13. It was a very dominating performance by the Texans, a team that to this point had not lost a game all season long. And the Ravens looked kind of out of sorts in that game. Really didn't know what to make of that football game. They were never close in that game, never had a shot. And so I didn't know what to take from that game. All I knew was that the Ravens did not show up, did not play their best football, and they were handed a very sound thrashing by the Houston Texans. So that gave the Ravens something to think about and stew over in their bye week. They come back off the bye. They win 4 straight games. And the Ravens had some impressive wins in the season to this point. After winning 4 straight, the last of those wins being a very dramatic come-from-behind victory against the San Diego Chargers, as we all come to know now, 4th and 27. They won that football game 13-16 in overtime. But that game right there was foreshadowing for things to come, because that was not a very good performance by the Baltimore Ravens. In fact, they should have lost that football game. But as bad teams often do, and the San Diego Chargers were a bad team in 2012, they found a way to lose that game. The Ravens found ways to make plays and win. That's what good teams do. But after that win, the Ravens hit the low point of their season. They lost 3 straight games, one against their division rivals in the Pittsburgh Steelers with a backup quarterback, and not just any backup, their 3rd-string quarterback, Charlie Batch, who just a week prior to that game could not hit the broadside of a barn, yet he was able to lead the Steelers to victory against the Ravens in Baltimore at M&T Bank Stadium. They went on the road the next week, lost to the Redskins, and then lost again at home to the Broncos for a 3-game slide for a team that looked like it was going to be among the best in the AFC. So all of a sudden now the Ravens are at a crossroads, and you really don't know what you're getting out of this Baltimore Ravens team. They need this next game in the worst way against the Giants. They don't have it. They might not make the postseason. The Bengals are starting to bear down on them in the division. The Steelers aren't dead yet in the playoff race. And so if the Ravens don't win and clinch a playoff spot, they could be fighting for their playoff lives come week 17 on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals. But the Ravens, being the team that they were and the franchise that they've been for the last decade, found a way to get it done at home against the Super Bowl defending champion New York Giants at home, taking care of them handily, clinching the division, a playoff berth, and really putting their fan base at ease. They lose the final game of the season, but it doesn't matter. They're 10-6. They're the winners of the AFC North. And so they host a home playoff game against the Indianapolis Colts. So they take care of business in Wild Card Weekend. I thought they got the best draw that they could possibly get by winning their division, but not clinching the 3rd or the 2nd seed. I thought if you wanted to get through Wild Card Weekend, okay, the best team to play was going to be that of the Indianapolis Colts. Not to take anything away from the Colts, but I thought of all 12 participants in the postseason, they were the ones that would be easiest to escort out of the postseason. And the Ravens did just that. The Vikings didn't put up much resistance in Green Bay, but they had some circumstances that really hindered them in that game. I thought that the Colts as a team just weren't good enough yet to really contend in the AFC. Look, they had a marvelous season, the Indianapolis Colts, but they were no match for this Baltimore Ravens football team. A very veteran-savvy group that had been to the postseason each of the last 4 or 5 seasons, winning a game each of the times that they've been in the postseason. This Ravens team is playoff tested. They're battle tested. So the Colts weren't going to march into M&T Bank and get anything accomplished. They didn't. Ravens move on. Where the Denver Broncos, the team that really walloped them early on in the regular season in Baltimore, was waiting on them. A team that was red hot, riding an 11-game winning streak. The most dangerous team in the league. Peyton Manning is playing at an MVP-like level. This defense is ranked number 2 in the league for the Denver Broncos. This is a dangerous team that has not lost since probably October. It was a very, very daunting task for the Baltimore Ravens. One that many, including myself, did not see them having a chance at accomplishing. Going into Mile High Stadium, beating a Denver Broncos team that hasn't lost in about 3 months, all but impossible. Not to mention, they had already disposed of this Ravens team pretty easily in Baltimore less than 2 months ago. So, really didn't see Baltimore waltzing into Mile High and getting a victory. But as this game wore on, you saw that the Ravens were being pesky. They were hanging around. They got away with some things in this game. Peyton Manning threw a pick six because Eric Decker was assaulted on a play. Pass interference was not called. I love the way this game was officiated, though. The officials allowed the players to play, and the Ravens were very physical, extremely physical with the Denver Broncos. They roughed up Peyton Manning, and look, they got him off of his spot. They didn't necessarily sack him 5 or 6 times, but they really harassed him, got him uncomfortable in the pocket, forced him into some errant throws, forced a fumble of Peyton Manning. They really did what they needed to do. They roughed up those receivers out wide. Eric Decker and Demaryius Thomas did not have a very productive day, and it's because this defense was allowed to be aggressive with them at the line of scrimmage, and that's exactly what they did. And so the Denver Broncos struggled in this game. If not for Trendon Holiday being so productive on special teams, having 2 touchdowns in this game on kickoff returns, I don't know if Denver is even in the position that they were in at the end of the game with 42 seconds left, having the Ravens down by 7. Ravens have no timeouts remaining. Clock is winding. Ravens have a 3rd and 3 in front of them, 70 yards away from tying this game, and then it happened. In case you don't know and aren't aware of what it is, Jacoby Jones gets loose behind the Broncos secondary. Raheem Moore makes a terrible play, takes a horrendous angle on the football. Don't know what Tony Carter was doing on the play. Doesn't matter. He gets behind the defense, does Jacoby Jones. Joe Flacco steps up in the pocket, avoids the rush as Von Miller and company were coming and bearing down on him. Steps up in the pocket and unleashes about a 55 to maybe 60-yard pass in the air. Hits Jacoby Jones, who is waiting under it as if he's catching a fair catch, as if he's catching a punt, which lets you know that this play should have been broken up or picked off if Raheem Moore had just played it simply as you should. Just go under the football, gather yourself, take your 2 steps or take your 1 step or jump off of 2 feet if you like, knock the football away or pick it off. Instead, he panics. He gets his feet tangled. He falls down on the ground. Jacoby Jones catches the football, walks into the end zone, extends this game to overtime where the Ravens find a way to score the necessary points to win the game 38-35 in overtime in thrilling fashion. What a game it was. It was a game for the ages. And that game set the stage for the rest of the postseason. And really, after the Ravens won this game, I was sold. I was convinced this is a team of destiny. The football gods will not allow Ray Lewis and this Baltimore Ravens team to not win the Super Bowl. I was convinced because you don't win a game like that. I mean, they were trailing by 7, 70 yards of grass in front of them. It's 3rd and 3. The clock's winding. You don't have any more timeouts. You need a miracle. And that's exactly what they got at the end of regulation. I just could not see them winning that game, and they won it anyway. And so I knew the football gods had their hands in the outcome of this game. And moving forward, they were going to take care of the Baltimore Ravens. So the Ravens move on to the championship game. And look, the one team that did not want to face the Baltimore Ravens was the New England Patriots. If there's one team in the league that strikes fear in the hearts of the New England Patriots, it's the Baltimore Ravens. And if there's one team that can go into Foxborough as if it's a home game and beat the Patriots, it's the Baltimore Ravens. And so going into this game, I thought that, honestly, the Ravens were the better team and they were going to win this game because the Ravens don't have a problem beating the New England Patriots. They just don't. And so they had beat them in the regular season. They should have beat them in the postseason last year if Lee Evans doesn't drop a ball that he was breastfed. And so it was of no surprise to me that the Ravens went into New England and got a win. What was surprising was how convincing and how easy they made it look. I mean, this game wasn't really close. It wasn't in doubt. Late in the fourth quarter, this game was over. And I was surprised at how easy the Ravens went into New England. Of course, the first half was a struggle, but they made some adjustments at halftime. They came out, they played some very inspired and confident football, and they just took it to Tom Brady in that offense. They didn't score a single point in the second half. They forced Brady into some interceptions. They got him off of his spot, much like Peyton Manning, and they dominated that football game. And that was the one thing that I took away from that game that I was surprised about. Not the outcome so much as how it came to be. They really dominated the New England Patriots in every facet of the game. I mean, it wasn't close. And so now this team is steaming hot. They're red hot. And we know in the National Football League, it's not how you show up to the party. It's when you show up to the party. And the Baltimore Ravens as a team, they didn't show up to the party dressed the best, and they didn't have everything going in their favor when they showed up to the postseason. But I tell you what, when they finally got there, they did some serious, and I mean some serious damage. So now they're in the Super Bowl facing a team that looks a lot like them in the San Francisco 49ers. They make it to the Super Bowl, Harbaugh Bowl as it was dubbed. And look, I knew I was sick and tired of it. You probably were too, hearing about the Harbaugh brothers and them growing up and their dad and how this is going to be a tough game. I don't care. If you're a Ravens fan or a 49ers fan, that was probably heaven for you. But for me, not being a fan of either team, just watching this thing objectively, oh my gosh. Okay, anyway. This game I knew was going to be very entertaining. I thought it was going to come down to the wire. I said that in the preview for the game. How we got to that point, though, very mysterious. The Ravens jumped out to a very early and aggressive lead against this San Francisco 49ers team. I thought that the 49ers came out in this game, were over-aggressive, did not do the things that got them to this point. They did not run the football early in this game, allowed the Ravens to jump on top of them. I thought the Ravens made a mistake in taking points off the board early on in this game by trying a fake field goal. It's one thing to try a fake field goal on 4th and 3. Try trying it on 4th and 9 and running with your punter or field goal kicker. I don't know about that. They fell short. Worked in their favor, however, because they stopped the 49ers, got the football right back, and ended up scoring a touchdown anyhow. So really didn't hurt them in the grand scheme of things, but I just thought that was a risky proposition. But anytime you get a chance to put points on the board, you want to, especially in a game of this type of magnitude. But anyway, doesn't matter. The Ravens were up big in this football game at the half, 21-6. And watching this game and the way it developed over the first half, you saw nothing from the San Francisco 49ers that led you to believe that they would be able to make a game of it. I was saying to myself, the Ravens deferred until after the second half, and so they were getting the first crack at it in the second half. And I said, if the Ravens go down and score a touchdown, this game is over. Because they had dominated the first half. And the 49ers just seemed like a team that was overwhelmed by this whole spectacle that is the Super Bowl. They seemed like a team that wasn't prepared to play in the Super Bowl. And again, the Ravens are battle-tested. They've been in AFC Championship games all the time. They know what it takes. They had not been in the Super Bowl since the 2000 season, but they knew what it took to get to this point. Meanwhile, the 49ers are a relatively young team. They were in the NFC Championship game a year ago, but this is unlike anything they've ever seen before. And I didn't know if this team was quite prepared for that, but tell you what, second half comes, and Jacoby Jones electrifies us all with a 108-yard kickoff return. This thing looks over. I'm saying to myself, lights out. No. Not literally lights out. I meant the game is over, lights out. But no, the lights really went out. And that was exactly what the 49ers needed in that game. The lights went out. It gave them a chance to settle down. It gave them a chance to really figure out, what do we need to do to get back in this game? They had a chance to be reflective and have some introspection, and they figured something out over that break. That delay gave them an opportunity to make some adjustments, maybe some things that they didn't iron out at halftime, because after that delay, the 49ers ran off 17 unanswered points in the third quarter, really making this a football game. And it carried over into the fourth quarter as they scored another touchdown and came within a 2-point conversion of tying this football game. They did not convert on the 2-point conversion. Ravens held serve, kept that 2-point lead, drove down on a big possession, got a field goal to extend the lead out to 5, making it so that the 49ers would have to score a touchdown to win this football game. 49ers came dangerously close to doing so, but weren't able to. After having 4 failed attempts inside the 10-yard line, the Ravens held serve, won the football game 34-31, crowning themselves as your 2012-2013 NFL season Super Bowl champions. Congratulations to the Baltimore Ravens on a job well done and one heck of a season after really seeming like your season was going nowhere fast after about week 13. So, what a tremendous ride the Ravens went on in the 2012 season. I mean, you had your highs, you're starting the season basically 8-2. You had your lows, dropping 3 straight at a time when you really needed to be winning football games. And then you hit your highest of highs by beating the Denver Broncos in Denver, beating the New England Patriots in New England, and then winning the Super Bowl 2 weeks thereafter. What a ride for the Baltimore Ravens. And let me say this. They beat Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, and Tom Brady in consecutive weeks. Now that's how you win a Super Bowl. Tell you what, this Baltimore Ravens team was ultra impressive on their road to winning the Super Bowl, but that's done now. You're Super Bowl champions. You've been crowned. You have the bragging rights of the league for the next 7 months. Enjoy it. However, there's a lot of issues to comb over in this offseason for the Baltimore Ravens. And let's get right to it. I mean, if you are the Ravens, this is what I said at the top of the show. They sold their souls to the devil. At least I think they did. Because Ray Lewis is gone. And now you have a lot of cap issues. You got a lot of things to iron out. You've got $1 million under the cap. And I don't know exactly how this will shape out. But if you don't sign Joe Flacco to a long-term deal, and you got to slap that franchise tag on him, you will have no money, no flexibility, no room to which you can maneuver and sign back a lot of guys that you need to have back in the fold. This will not be the same team defending the Super Bowl championship that won it if you're not able to sign Joe Flacco to a long-term deal. If you have to slap the franchise tag on him and he's making an inordinate amount of money, you will not be able to re-sign guys like L.A.B, Kerry Williams, Paul Kruger, and these are all valuable pieces on your defense. Ed Reed, look, 2 tickets to paradise. Pack your bags, you'll leave tonight. If you don't re-sign Joe Flacco to a long-term deal, a lot of those guys will have 2 tickets to paradise. They will be testing the free agent waters, and they will not be back with the Baltimore Ravens. And if those guys are not back, in addition to Ray Lewis, who was probably more of an inspiration than a presence on the field himself, you're going to be in some trouble come the 2013 NFL season. So here it is. If you're a Baltimore Ravens fan, you better hope that you did not sell your soul to the devil, because the football gods had their hands in your Super Bowl victory. But if you sold your soul to the devil, if you made a deal behind the football gods' back with the devil, you are in some serious trouble. And I tell you what, it seems like you may have done just that. Because, again, Ray Lewis is gone. And even though he wasn't ultra productive on the field, he was an emotional uplifting for this team. So he's gone. Ed Reed might possibly be gone. Paul Kruger, who I think is emerging as a very, very good outside linebacker in the National Football League, a guy that can get pressure on the quarterback, he may be gone. You look at L.A.B. He was your best inside linebacker in the 2012 season. He might be gone. You look at Bryant McKinney. Look, you say what you want about Bryant McKinney, and yes, he is a guy that could easily eat his way out of the league. And he did not come into camp in shape and did miss time in the season because he wasn't ready to play football. But when he was finally ready, when the Ravens finally got their 5 best offensive linemen on the field. And it happened right as the postseason commenced. They got their best 5 linemen on the field, and they had a group ready to protect Joe Flacco and open up holes for Ray Rice. That's when the Ravens started to get it going in this season. Their best 5 linemen finally were put on the field when the postseason started, and they made the run. And Bryant McKinnie was a big part of that. So make no mistake about it, you need to have Bryant McKinnie in the fold. That's part of the reason why you were able to win the Super Bowl, because Bryant McKinnie allowed Michael Orr to slide back over the right tackle, and it allowed everyone to be in their proper lanes. It allowed everyone to be put in their proper perspective. Everyone was where they were supposed to be when they were supposed to be there, and that allowed your line to really play at a high level. So you need Bryant McKinnie back. Will he be back? I don't know, because you don't have a lot of money. You don't have a lot of flexibility. That's why it is imperative that you get a long-term deal done with Joe Flacco. And if you have to use your franchise tag, which it seems like you might have to initially, you won't have the space and freedom necessary to do the things that you might need to do. And guys like Anquan Boldin, who is slated to make $6 million, might have to get cut as a result, because you might want to have some guys back, like a Kerry Williams, who is a free agent. So you might have to get rid of guys who are ultra productive for you, like an Anquan Boldin. And really, he's your best receiver. And if you cut him loose, you'll need to replace him, because you don't have another guy that can step up and be a #1 receiver on your team. Everyone has a role on this team, and they play it well. And if you start getting rid of pieces, the foundation of this team will fall apart. And Anquan Boldin is one of those big blocks at the bottom of this Baltimore Ravens development. And if you take him out, this thing might crumble from right under you. And you need Anquan Boldin, but at $6 million, will you be able to afford to keep him around? He's already said, hey, if I'm not a Baltimore Raven, I'll just retire. I don't want to play for anyone else. So you got to figure out some things if you're the Ravens. And that's your biggest offseason issue. Of course, Joe Flacco is something that needs to be done. And he's 1A, but everyone else is 1B, because there's so many guys that you need to re-sign that you might not be able to bring back. And so for the Ravens, that's the biggest issue. Did you make a deal with the devil? Did you sell your soul for a Super Bowl championship? Look, you got what you wanted out of the deal if you did. You got a Super Bowl championship. You just may not be back to not only defend it, but you may not be back in the Super Bowl for another decade if you did, in fact, sell your soul to the devil for a chance to win a Super Bowl. But we'll see. We don't know. I don't know. What we can do is sit back and watch and see what the Ravens are able to do. And I'll tell you what, Ozzie Newsome and company do a great job of figuring things out. And even when it seems broken, and it may not be, they always seem to fix it anyway. So let's see what Ozzie Newsome and that Ravens staff can get done in the offseason. And most likely, they'll figure out a way to make this thing work, get guys back in the fold, and have this team ready to make a run at it in 2013. But we will see. Let's talk about the Ravens' needs quickly and get out of here. Really, all the Ravens' needs are going to be hinged upon what they do in free agency. Are they able to get some of their guys back? If Matt Burke decides to retire, you need a new center. If you can't re-sign Bryant McKinnie, you need a new left tackle. So, as you can see, if you're able to get guys to come back, some of your needs won't be as pressing. If L.A.B is back in the fold, you have a middle linebacker. You might be able to promote within, or you might need to go draft one, but you won't need two. You won't need an overhaul at the middle linebacker position. If Paul Kruger isn't brought back, you might need to replace 3 positions at linebacker. Staggering. That's a huge number on your defense. That's turnover is what that is. Because normally, as a team, you don't want to see more than 2 guys have to be replaced on either side of the football. I'm talking about 3 possibly at one position. You could be in some serious trouble at the linebacker position. So don't know what the future holds for that position on your team, but that could be a need in the offseason. You look at wide receiver. If Anquan Boldin isn't back, you need another receiver, a big-time receiver. Because let's face it, Tandon Doss, Torrey Smith, Jacoby Jones, None of those guys are number ones. Torrey Smith is perfect in his role as a number 2 receiver. I think Torrey Smith's role on this offense is perfect as a number 2. You don't want to ask him to extend himself and be something that he's not, which he's not a number 1. So you might need a receiver if Anquan Boldin isn't able to be retained on this roster. So there's plenty of areas of need on this roster if things aren't taken care of. If you are the Baltimore Ravens, cornerback, that could be a need as well. Look at this secondary as a whole. I mean, if Ed Reed isn't back, if Kerry Williams isn't back, you still got Ladarius Webb coming off of an ACL tear. You don't know what he's going to be. Jimmy Smith is still young and coming along. This secondary could be in shambles if Kerry Williams isn't back, if Ed Reed isn't back, if Ladarius Webb comes back and he's not full strength. And usually guys don't come back and play at their best a year removed off of that ACL tear. So you might not see the real Ladarius Webb for another season. So this secondary could be in some trouble. So again, depending on what the Ravens do in the offseason, this team could have a lot of needs or this team could have minimal needs. We'll see. But I tell you what, this is going to be a very, and I mean very interesting offseason for the Baltimore Ravens indeed. And that's going to do it for the Baltimore Ravens. I thank you for joining me here on their Lab Follow-Up, as that is it. I've chronicled and covered every single team in the National Football League in the Lab Follow-Up. It's been fun. Now we're going to transition into free agent talk. And so I'll be talking to you a little bit more on the next program on Monday on the installment of In the Lab Room about what direction we're going to move into next. So stay tuned for that. I thank you for joining me here on the Lab Follow-Up for the Baltimore Ravens. They're the Super Bowl champions. 2 tickets to paradise. Pack your bags, they leave tonight. The Ravens are your Super Bowl champions for the 2012-2013 season. So I thank you for joining me here on the Lab Follow-Up of the Baltimore Ravens. Stay tuned as I'll be back on Monday in the Lab Room pronto. Have a good one. See you then.
Baltimore Ravens.